बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलाम वालेकुम। कैसे हैं आप सब लोग? दिस इज़ अफरीन बाबर एंड वेलकम टू माय चैनल। एज यू नो दैट टुडे माय टॉपिक इज़ आईएल्स इन अ नटशेल। तो आज हम बात करेंगे आईएल्स यानी इंटरनेशनल इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज टेस्टिंग सिस्टम इन अ नटशेल। टुडेज वीडियो इज़ द इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ द आईएल्स। आज हम आईएल्स का इंट्रोडक्शन कर रहे हैं। इसमें हम बात करेंगे हाउ वी आर गोइंग टू हैव व्हाट एग्जैक्टली आईएल्स इज, हु इज सपोज्ड टू गिव इट, एंड व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू लर्न फ्रॉम इट, व्हाई इट इज important to give IELTS. In International English Language Testing System, as it is known by the name, so it is actually taken to check your proficiency. Proficiency means कि आपको कितनी इंग्लिश आती है, and it's for the actually checking. Why do they need to check it? Because of the non-native speakers. वो non-native कौन होते हैं? The people who are not, whose first language is not English. तो जिन countries में English is not the first language, if you want to move there from Pakistan or any of the Asian country or any of the other country, you need to give that IELTS test. Number one. Number two, like, who are the native speakers? Native speakers, only 8 countries have their native language English. Their first language and the basic language is English. So native speakers are basically those who are not from China, who are not from Asia. There are only 8 countries: America, US, जिसे हम कहते हैं UK. These Canada, Australia, these are the basic first world countries which are the native speakers. Otherwise, Asian countries like China, Japan, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Malaysia, these are not the native countries of English. And there are the other ones as well, like African countries, which they are also not the native countries. So if you want to move from Pakistan towards any of the country which is native, you need to go give that IELTS test. And if you are from any of the other Asian country, you need to give that IELTS test too. So IELTS is only for those countries who are not native countries of English. Their first language is not as in English. Now we'll move forward that, like, who created that test and how they have started it. This test is created by the Cambridge system long time ago. It doesn't matter like how it created a long time ago, but that matter is like why it is created. They need to check that either you can speak English according to their country or not. There are two ways of that kind of giving that IELTS test. One is academic and one is general. Later on, we will talk about that. Before that, I would like to talk about, like, in Pakistan, how can you attempt IELTS? Where to give? Will you have to go to the Cambridge University to give that test, or you can do this test in Pakistan as well on online basis? Basically, in Pakistan, but they have that Cambridge University have given the responsibility to the British Council and IDP to conduct this test. IDP is basically International Development of Leadership Organization, which is being allowed from the British Council. In Pakistan, especially in Karachi, we have the different centers who conducts that IELTS test. Australian Education Office also conducts, which is called AEO, also conducts that IELTS test. So basically, in Pakistan, giving that British Council test, AEO test, or IDP test, they all are same. It is normally the misconception about, like, the British Council is difficult to give the test, IDP is easy to give the test, and AEO is more easy to give the test. It's basically not like that. It's all same. What happens, what the people person experiences is, first they attempt from the British Council because it is a more authentic, because that's been directly created by the Cambridge University. They've been given the responsibility by the Cambridge University. But what happened actually? At very first attempt, we do not score much, and we find that the British Council is not giving the good score. Exactly, that's not the problem. The problem is that British Council is the same one as an Australian concept of education is taking, or IDB is taking. At very first you have not attempt it well, you were not well prepared. When you attempt it second time, definitely you will choose another center, and you would find out that maybe you have the good Australian concept of education or Australian education office. So these things take you to that misconception that British Council is quite difficult. If you give your first test from the IDP, you will find out the same result, and you will find out like it's not important that everybody gets over or gets fail or get less bends in a very first attempt, but that usually happens because that's a very first test. Now we will go for that how their proficiency matters. How much do they need the proficiency, and what are the pens, what are the CFRS, and what about all these international testing systems? There are two ways of giving that international testing system. Number one is academic, number two is general. The people who need to give their education visa, who need to ask for the education visit or education visa, they need to go for academics. Either they are going for any diploma program, they are going for any academic program, their degree program, masters, any of their program. They need to apply for academic course, either in general course. If you're going for immigration, if you're moving from your country to another country, you need to give that general test. It is quite right that academic test is little more difficult than that general test, because in general they need to just know how much do you know about English, can you communicate in English. And in general test, IELTS testing system, they actually judge your speaking level. They actually judge that can you people be communicative, will you be able to survive in any of the English native country, nothing more than that. But in academics, you need to compete, that those moments you need to compete all students of the native educations which who are over there, who are studying. So will you be able to study with them or not? So I would definitely मूव फॉरवर्ड, और हम अपनी नेक्स्ट वीडियो में उसके बारे में बताएंगे कि व्हाट आर द टेस्ट बीइंग टेकन इन एकेडमिक्स, कौन कौन से टास्क होते हैं और जनरल में कौन कौन से टास्क होते हैं, और दोनों में क्या क्या चीज़ें आसान होती हैं. Next, I would like to go for the paper test or online test. Look at, like, it used to be the paper test before, but after COVID, they have taken the online test as well. I would rather prefer you to take that paper test. Paper test it quite easier than that online test because we are habitual of writing. It's not कि test different आता है, test same आता है, लेकिन we are habitual of writing. We are good at writing. Typing speed, everybody does not get the good typing speed. That also matters actually. So if you do not have the good typing speed, do not go for the online test. Go for the paper test, especially for the writing task. Next, I would like to go for the most importantly about that, say, scoring in IELTS or IELTS bends. In usually we talk about the marks, usually we talk about the grades, but in IELTS we have bends. Bends from 1 to 9. 1 is the lowest one, 9 is the highest. In lowest one, definitely if you do not score in all four modules, there are four modules of IELTS: reading, writing, listening, speaking. And these all four modules needs to get that 9 bends or 8 bends or 7 bends. If you are having 9 in speaking but 7 in writing, reading and listening, then you are totally scoring in uh, less way, like you would have that 8 bends or 7.5 bends in average. But in some of the problems in some of the cases when for example, you get an H2 visa from America, and they needed to have your IELTS test. They want you to give the IELTS test. What you have to give? You have to go for, they want you to come to the professional level. So their writing skills, their speaking skills, their listening skills, they all should be with 8, 8, 8, and 9. So their speaking should be 9 and 8, 8. Sometimes they ask for the different modules with the different scoring accepted, or sometimes they need an overall result, especially in general when you're going for that immigration, or you're going for your job purpose. You're not giving that academic at that time, and you need to work for that module wise. But in academic, you need to go for everything at the same pace or same modules. We'll go for, like, furthermore, what about CEFR? That's called CEFR. You must have heard about A2 level, A1 level, B2 level, B1 level, C1 level, C2 level. What are these? These are basically common European framework of reference to the other languages, or reference to for the languages. Basically, CEFR is about that bending. It's all about how you get and how proficient you are. Either you're going for the sefer, either you're going for bands. The both things, they need to check your proficiency. So for the level of language you have, they want to test, and that's called that proficiency level. So that proficiency level, basically either you're going for sefer or either you're going for bands, but would be checked at the same level. What, how would we count it? Like A1 and A2 level is basically basic level. It's from 1 to 9. A1 and A2 is basic level. B1 and B2 is intermediate level. And C1 and C2 is advanced level. If you're talking about 9 bends, 8.5 bends, or 8 bends, basically 9 bends or 8.5 bends, it's C2 level. 8 bends, it's C1 level. And before that, it's an intermediate levels, 7.5 bends, 7 bends. It's basically B1 and B2. It's like that. It's coming to the A1 and A2. The all proficiency level they have, जितना proficiency level आपके पास होगा, they are going to judge either in C1, C2, especially in the readings, in academic readings when you are applying for the academic visas, they go for the CEFR, and they judge it that how much, what is your reading level, C1, C2, B1, B2. In academics, your at least B2 level is required. In academics visa, your 6.5 bends are required to have that, at least that reading skills. Otherwise, you are not going to get that visa. These all the technicalities. We'll go for the visa technicalities for another video. And I would definitely mark you, like, to have that good marks, have that 9 bends, have that 8.5 bends. You need to practice the IELTS. Inshallah, my next video will be about the first lecture of IELTS. In today, we have talked about the introduction of IELTS, and after that, we'll go starting with that tips of the listening, reading, writing, which may help you to get that better, which may help you to get the good grades. Thank you very much. See you in next.